Hey there, future millionaires. Welcome back to the channel. It's so good to see you again. I'm genuinely hoping you're having an absolutely amazing day, no matter where you're tuning in from around this incredible world of ours. All right, let's dive right into what everyone's been asking about, XRP. So I've got the one-day chart pulled up here, and wow, look at this. We're sitting pretty at $2.29 right now. And here's what's really impressive. XRP is absolutely crushing it. It's holding strong like a champion. You know what? I'll be completely honest with you. I was actually expecting this thing to take a bigger dip today. But nope, it's proving me wrong in the best possible way. And if you look at the 7-day chart, you could see how XRP set a new low before moving back up. Are we going to go lower? Nobody really knows yet. And if you look at Bitcoin, and boom, we're back down under that 107,000 mark. Now here's the thing, folks. We're still playing follow the leader with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin decides to keep sliding down, guess what? We're going along for that ride too. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're not completely out of the woods just yet. But here's what I'm seeing. There's definitely some light starting to peek through at the end of this tunnel. This market is absolutely going to bounce back. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And here's where it gets really interesting. I'm thinking this whole turnaround might kick off once the government gets back up and running. Now, once that happens, I've got my eyes locked on Paul Atkins over at the SEC. I'm really hoping this guy comes in hot and fast-tracks those spot XRP ETFs that everyone's been waiting for. And let me tell you something. Literally everyone in the space is saying that's going to be the massive catalyst that kicks off this entire alt season. From this morning to this afternoon, President Trump says we'll be fine with China. But wait, there's more! Later that same day, he drops another bombshell, saying he might actually move up China's 100% tariff deadline from November 1st. Like, seriously? So here's the million-dollar question everyone's asking. Was this just another classic Friday market manipulation move? Because I'm seeing tons of people in the comments and across social media saying exactly that right now. But here's my take on this whole situation. I genuinely think the market is starting to build up some serious immunity to these tariff announcements. And you know what? We've actually seen this movie before. Think about it. Remember back in the day when he would even just whisper the word tariffs and boom! The entire market would absolutely crater, right? But now? It's like the market is saying, oh, tariffs again? Cool story, bro. It's definitely developing that thick skin and getting used to this whole routine all over again. But honestly, your guess is as good as mine about where we're headed next. And here's something that's got me a little concerned. They're now saying this US government shutdown could drag on for more than 40 days. That would absolutely demolish the previous record of 35 days back in 2019. Look, I'm just going to be straight with you guys. I really want this government to get back to business. Because once that happens, we can finally get this whole train back on the rails, you know? And speaking of waiting around, we're still sitting here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for some actual clarity on crypto regulations. At this point, it's looking like most of that stuff is probably getting kicked down the road all the way into 2026. Ugh. And those ETFs we were all getting hyped about this week? Yeah. Looks like we're gonna have to wait until November now instead. I know. Major bummer. But here's the silver lining I'm focusing on. Once this government finally gets its act together and reopens, I think that could be absolutely huge for crypto. Like, that news alone could be enough to get this whole market fired up again. Why? Because then people can actually start getting stuff done instead of just sitting around waiting. Oh, and you thought the recent liquidation was the Black Swan. Take a listen to this.
And the third big risk, as always, is the unknown. We learned over the last years since COVID, think of the unthinkable. I don't know what the next shock is going to be. I don't know when it is going to come, but I'm pretty confident there would be one. And then we are tested.
There's a lot.
So they are already telling you another Black Swan is coming. And that comes from the IMF. And you see her there with the ECB as well. They already know a major crash is going to happen. And then I think we will see the rise of the new financial system. And you know what's really funny? Everybody kept saying, oh, it's all about Ethereum. Ethereum is the future. XRP is never going to be part of the future. Well, take a listen to Kevin O'Leary here.
I anticipate that you're going to be crashing Wall Street with the blockchain with crypto. So we've been talking about going on chain for 12 years. Never happened. But now with the stimulus of the Genius Act, for the first time ever, people are starting to use it as a digital payment system. And in order to do that, you have to go on chain. You have to go on to the Ethereum or the Solana. You got to go on chain. You have to sell and buy on chain. So over the weekend, and the reason I bring it up, a concern that I've had for a long time, and I've seen it before, is that Ethereum, the biggest blockchain, if you think about ETH, and what's really stimulated it has been that maybe 30% of all transactions on stablecoins are being settled on Ethereum or transferred on Ethereum or paid on Ethereum. But over the weekend, when we had real volatility for various reasons on crypto, Ethereum itself got stuck. It got overloaded, overcrowded. And the best analogy I can use for this is if you think about a single lane highway with a toll booth. Ethereum is a single lane highway and all the cars are transactions on it, but they have to go through the authentication toll booth out in the middle of nowhere. So they all have to drive through the toll booth, and it works fine when there's not massive volatility or massive volume. But when we had that occur, both massive volatility and massive volume on Saturday, it got stuck. There were too many cars on the highway. And so the cost of clearing one of those transactions, that's how you tell it's stuck, because you can buy your way to the front of the car line to get through the toll next to the fee. One of those transactions traded for more than $1,000. So imagine if you're buying something for $1.50 and you had to pay $1,000 to use Ethereum, that's screwed up.
And this is exactly why I keep saying Ethereum is not the future, guys. Listen, it's just not designed to handle the world's money, plain and simple. What happens when everyone tries to use it? It gets completely jammed up like rush hour traffic. It crawls at a snail's pace. And don't even get me started on those gas fees. They'll absolutely destroy your wallet. Now I know what you're thinking, because we see this stuff plastered all over the mainstream media every single day, right? You've got people like Tom Lee going on TV constantly, beating the drum about how ETT is the future this and ETH is the future that. But here's the raw, unfiltered truth about Ethereum. When push comes to shove, it's painfully slow and ridiculously expensive to use. That's just the reality we're dealing with. And you know what? I hate to break it to the Bitcoin maximalists out there, but you could make the exact same argument about Bitcoin too. Same problems, different coin. And that, my friends, is exactly why XRP is the real future. So check this out. I've been diving deep into the charts, and the pattern we're seeing right now in 2025, it's almost identical to what happened back in 2016 to 2017. It's like deja vu. If history repeats itself, and it often does, here's what we're looking at. XRP might take a little breather for the next 2 to 3 weeks, hanging out around that $2 mark. But then, November could be absolutely explosive. Now, I know there are tons of skeptics out there. Every single day I see people saying, XRP will never hit $10. It'll never break $50. 3 digits? Are you crazy? But hold up. Let me take you on a little trip down memory lane to 2017. You know what happened back then? XRP absolutely shattered expectations. By January 2018, this thing rocketed all the way up to over $3. And remember, it started from literally fractions of a penny. So when people try to tell you it can't happen based on old cycles or market cap theories, here's the kicker. We already know XRP's market cap multiplier is way higher than anyone predicted. I mean, who would have ever thought we'd see a 400% or 500% market cap multiplier? But guess what? It exists for XRP. And here's where it gets really exciting. Once those spot XRP ETFs finally go live, we're talking about institutional money flooding in like a tsunami, day after day after day. So what do you think happens to XRP's price when that dam breaks? It goes absolutely parabolic. Okay, this next piece of news is absolutely mind-blowing. Ripple Labs is spearheading a massive effort to raise at least $1 billion. And get this, they want to use it to accumulate XRP. Now, When I first saw this headline, I was like, wait, hold on. Are they buying back Ripple company shares? But nope, they're actually targeting XRP itself, which is wild. Vincent Bancode is all over this, saying, this is fantastic. Ripple is buying XRP. But here's where it gets really interesting. You're probably thinking the same thing I was. Why on earth would they do this when they've got over $30 billion just sitting there in escrow? They can literally grab 500 million XRP every single month. And that's exactly what makes this so exciting. Here's what Ripple is really doing. They're making a massive statement of confidence in XRP while using this SPAC strategy to create serious upward pressure on the open market. It's genius. So what are they going to do with all this XRP once they get it? Well, they've got options. They could pump it into their operations, throw it back into escrow, or just let it sit pretty in the SPAC as treasury reserves. Heck, they might even use it to build absolutely massive liquidity pools on the XRP ledger. No matter how you slice it, this is an incredibly bullish signal. Now here's the reality check. They're not going to be hitting up the open market the way most people are imagining. So don't expect to see XRP's price skyrocket immediately because of this move. But here's what this really tells us. And this is huge. It shows just how much Ripple truly believes in XRP's future. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And that right there tells you everything you need to know. You're holding the absolute right cryptocurrency, my friend. So get this. Ripple's client list just got a massive upgrade. They've instantly added over 1,000 clients through G Treasury. And when I tell you some of these G Treasury clients, your jaw is going to drop. The one that made me do a complete double take? Pfizer. We're talking about one of the biggest pharmaceutical giants on the planet. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are tons of other massive companies on this list that'll blow your mind. Here's what's incredible about this. Ripple essentially just formed partnerships with every single one of these companies in one fell swoop. And yet somehow, there are still people out there being bearish on XRP? I mean, come on. This is literally showing us the writing on the wall for what's about to unfold. What Ripple just did is absolutely brilliant. They've positioned themselves as the perfect alternative to SWIFT. They're not just competing anymore. They're completely revolutionizing how global payments work. And here's where it gets even crazier. Johnny Deaton is saying this acquisition spree is far from over. Let me break down this absolutely insane shopping list that Ripple's been on. First up, Hidden Road for a whopping $1.25 billion. We're talking prime brokerage, clearing, and multi-asset infrastructure. That's serious firepower right there. Then they scooped up Rail for $200 million, which is all about supercharging their stablecoin game. This adds virtual accounts and automated back-end systems, basically making their stablecoin payments infrastructure bulletproof. But wait, there's more. Medico went for $250 million, bringing crypto custody and tokenization services to the table. With this move, Ripple just planted their flag firmly in the institutional custody market. And they didn't stop there. Standard Custody and Trust for regulated digital asset custody, Fortress Trust for crypto infrastructure and regulatory licensing, and Algrim for crypto market making and trading expertise. Each one of these acquisitions is like adding another superpower to Ripple's arsenal. Now here's what's got me really excited. I don't think Brad Garlinghouse is anywhere close to being done. My gut tells me Ripple's gonna grab at least one more company before this year wraps up. And 2026? Oh man, I think we're gonna see even more acquisitions. They're basically building the ultimate financial infrastructure empire, one strategic acquisition at a time. Ripple hired top Trump lobbyist Brian Ballard to shape U.S. crypto regulation. Now an invite to the White House gala. Ripple and Trump. So you see, alright, so here's another chess move that shows just how brilliant Ripple really is. Remember that whole SEC lawsuit drama from 2020? Yeah, that mess where they got sued for allegedly violating securities laws with their token sales? Well, Ripple just made another power play. On November 13th, they brought on Brian Ballard. And this guy isn't just anyone. He's a longtime Trump ally who's now going to be lobbying on digital assets, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and all the related legislation. Talk about strategic timing. But here's what I absolutely love about Ripple. This is just another perfectly calculated move in their playbook. You know what I've noticed? Every single person that Ripple brings on board isn't just a random hire. Each one is handpicked to fill a very specific role in their master plan. Even their hiring strategy is like watching a grandmaster play chess. Every move is deliberate. Every piece has a purpose. And when you step back and look at everything Ripple does, from acquisitions to partnerships to strategic hires like this, you can see exactly what they're building toward. Every single decision is designed to push them one giant step closer to their ultimate goal, completely taking over SWIFT's position in global payments. It's like watching a perfectly orchestrated takeover happen in real time.
Okay, this next part is absolutely crucial, so pay close attention. Starting in November 2025, which is literally next month, guys, over 11,500 SWIFT members are all going to be operating under the exact same language through something called ISO 222 compliance. That's a massive standardization move. But here's where the timing gets absolutely brilliant. And this is why that G Treasury acquisition I mentioned earlier was such a genius move. The timing wasn't coincidental at all. You see, by acquiring G Treasury right before this SWIFT standardization happens, Ripple just positioned themselves as the perfect alternative to SWIFT. It's like they saw this coming from miles away and made their move at exactly the right moment. What this essentially did, and this is huge, is it completely opened the door for Ripple to step in as a legitimate SWIFT alternative. They're not just some upstart anymore. They're now a real, viable option for all those institutions that might be looking for something better than the traditional SWIFT system. Whew, talk about perfect timing. Ripple basically just said, hey, while you're all getting used to these new standards, why don't you check out what we've got to offer instead? Brilliant. So get this, Ripple just acquired a company that instantly connected them to 13,000 banks in one fell swoop. That's insane. Now here's where it gets interesting. G Treasury currently uses SWIFT to handle all its messaging. But hold up, and I'm going to be honest, I'm a little confused by how this was originally worded. But here's the real question we need to ask. Do they even need Swift anymore? Like, seriously? Think about it. With RippleNet and XRP in the picture, does their connection to SWIFT become completely irrelevant now? Because what Ripple just did is open up a whole new alternative pathway. Picture this scenario. Let's say a country gets fed up and decides, you know what? We're done with SWIFT. We're going full RippleNet instead. Guess what happens? They're still connected to all those same banks, all 13,000 of them, except now Swift is completely out of the equation. And here's where it gets really exciting. This isn't just about big players. Even the smallest community bank out there can now go toe-to-toe with the banking giants. How? By leveraging RippleNet and XRP, they suddenly have access to the same competitive advantages as the megabanks. It's like David getting handed a rocket launcher to fight Goliath. The playing field just got completely leveled, and that's absolutely game-changing for the entire banking industry. And this is exactly what I've been sitting here waiting to see unfold, because I keep hearing people say, well, Swift never even mentions XRP, or Swift doesn't talk about Ripple at all. But come on, guys, we've known for years that Ripple and SWIFT have been working together behind the scenes. Now, I don't think this was some kind of corporate espionage situation where Brad Garlinghouse was sitting there rubbing his hands together like, all right, we're going to infiltrate SWIFT and destroy them from the inside. That's not his style at all. What I think Brad's real vision is, and this is brilliant, he wants to create a legitimate alternative that people can actually choose to use if they want to. He's basically saying, hey, here's another option that gives everyone a fair shot. It's all about leveling that playing field so the little guys can compete with the big dogs. But here's what I'm really excited to see. How this whole thing affects XRP's price once ISO goes live next month. That's when the rubber meets the road. Now, I've got to be real with you. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, there's still a chance we could see XRP dip even lower before we see that massive breakout. But that's just part of the game. And honestly, it might be our last chance to load up before things get really interesting. Maybe head down even closer to $2. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing to me. When you pull up Bitcoin's chart and put it side by side with XRP's chart, they're practically twins. Like, seriously identical patterns. Yet somehow, people are only freaking out about XRP dropping? I'm like, guys, how long have you been in this crypto space? Just look at both charts for 2 seconds and you'll see they're moving in perfect sync. The reality is,
We're still dancing to Bitcoin's beat. That's just how the market works right now. But here's what I'm really excited about. Eventually, XRP is going to break free from Bitcoin's grip through pure utility. When that happens, we're going to see some fireworks. But, and this is important, that decoupling isn't going to happen until we get those regulations locked and loaded first. That's the missing piece of the puzzle. So until that magical moment arrives, here's what I need from you guys. Stay patient, stay positive, and let's ride this wave to financial freedom together. All right, CryptoFam, that's a wrap on today's video. I seriously appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and being part of this incredible community. You guys are the best. Catch you in the next one, and until then, have an absolutely fantastic night. Keep hodling strong.